podcast. Hey, CRAZYDRE podcast. That's amazing.
Welcome to the CRAZYDRE Podcast Show, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is your main man, aka Crazy Crockett, aka Andres Podcast. Folks, it's me. I'm back. It's going to be a Tuesday episode. Of course it is. I try to come on here every Tuesday, every Thursday. The Thursday episode may just be talking about the Detroit Lions and maybe just the Thursday games along with the Friday game. I know there's a Friday game on there too, on the day after Thanksgiving. But folks, I'm back. I'd like to thank everyone out there that's been listening to my podcast. I get gradually downloads here and there. I'm not that big yet, but I try to keep things in check. Today, I'm going to talk about a little bit about everything. I'm going to try to talk about everything as possible about sports. I will have my buddy Ron back on the show. I'll probably will air that on Wednesday, just because on Thursday I want to be able to talk about sports in itself for Thanksgiving Day. Detroit Lions against the Bears and the Dallas Cowboys against whoever they play. But yeah, I know it's really unprofessional. Some people say that's just mean. But it's Dallas Cowboys. They're not even supposed to be good because they only have a starting quarterback, and somehow they beat Washington Commanders. I really hate games like this when it's like teams don't try to play or teams are lazy. And I felt like the Washington Commanders could have easily taken care of the Dallas Cowboys, but they just lingered and lingered. And I sometimes think that it's just BS. I don't want to say the games are somewhat, I don't want to say fixed or arranged, but I mean, there were just so many games out there that was way too close. Even with, I'll talk about that a little bit. But here we go. I'm going to talk about the UFC a little bit, MMA stuff. As most of you guys know, Conor McGregor was charged with sexual assault from 2018 of a young lady who he met after a fight, and he basically sexually assaulted her. She only got maybe somewhat $258,000 out of the whole bit, which isn't really a lot. And why am I bringing this up? Because you got to be careful about your substance, what you put in your body, what it can do to your mind, what it can do to your soul. It can make you to a different person. Some of you guys out there may think, well, he wasn't on drugs. Well, if you're intoxicated after a fight and you go out to the club and you somehow get a girl, I don't know. He says it was consensual sex. There's a lot of things that's going on here. What is consensual? What's not consensual? That's up for you to decide. Everyone thinks that when a girl says no, it means a no. I would tell you this, 7 out of 10 times that's true. And then that 3 out of 10 times, it's that girl telling you no, but she really wants it, and you don't know what it's. And by the end of the night, it just gets out of hand. So I guess you could say that no means no. So circumstances, I think that if he wasn't intoxicated or on something, he might have played his cards a little differently, respectively, that he's married as well. But that's something that you chit-chat a little bit about. But I really want to go back to Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. And I want to say that I'm kind of disappointed in ESPN again for propaganda of this pretending to say that the UFC or the MMA fight or the boxing match against Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, is not fake. It's real, 100%. Everyone knows that Mike Tyson made $20 million. Jake Paul made somewhere around $38, $40 million to fight. If you watch the fight close enough, you can tell that Mike Tyson, in the first 2 rounds, he was starting to catch his rhythm. He had to pull back a couple times. Jake Paul kept himself open with his hands down, and Mike Tyson could have clocked that kid in the face, and maybe only have made over $9 million or $6 million. The real stipulation is this: if Mike Tyson knocked out Jake Paul, how much money would Mike Tyson lose? That's something to kind of really think about. I think a lot of people need to realize that Jake Paul was probably scared out of his mind, knowing that Mike Tyson could turn on the key anytime he wanted to. But I do think that anyone on ESPN, Fox Sports, or anyone that does anything on MMA and tells you that that fight was real, 100%, I think they're doing a disservice to the MMA brand. They're doing a disservice to real fighting itself. They're not really telling you the truth, and I just think it's bad, because if you allow something like that to be fake, then you still allow kids to play sports and participate in all trophy or all banner moment where you can just receive a trophy for participating. It just sends you a bad feed about what life is about what hard work really means, what aging really means, maturing as an older man. That's something that you have to also understand about Mike Tyson. Now, this was Mike Tyson when he was 25, 27 years old, just coming out of prison for that sexual assault case or that rape case back in the 80s. He would have knocked the crap out of Jake Paul, and he probably would have never felt any remorse for it. But it takes a mature guy like Mike to say, you know what, I'm going to make my money. I'm going to not kill this kid, because he could have only knocked him out cold turkey. He could have just knocked him out. His teeth would have been out. He might even had a brain injury if Mike Tyson unleashed all of his power on this Jake Paul. And not to say that Jake Paul would not have hurt Mike Tyson, but I mean, I think everyone kind of knows that it takes kind of a coward to knock out a 58-year-old man, but that's not the purpose of that fight. The purpose of that fight is to make as much money as possible. And I just think it's doing disservice to boxing. I know I said UFC, but I'm always, we're always associating Jake Paul with UFC stuff. But there is a guy named Johnson, Rampage Johnson, that wants to take on Jake Paul. And he's a MMA great back in his day. He's upset that Jake Paul is making a joke out of this sport, and the fighters that are in this, who are participating in MMA fighting and UFC. So I think that, Jake Paul is a real man. He'll take that fight. And I think people just want to see him not so much get knocked out. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that want to see him knocked out. But I think a lot of people want to see him take a good whooping for all that BS. And I do think that when he hits 30, 35 years old, I can see him going to the WWE, making himself a professional fighter or a professional promoter for his own doing in that sport. I do think that that for me, growing up and maturing, I have a difficult time respecting WWE or WWF. I'm going to call it WWF because that's the era that I grew up in. And I get it. When I was a little kid, it looked all real to me. And you get grown men who are alpha guys punching each other's face in or faking punching each other's face in. Yes, there's a couple of suplex, there's body slams, there's the ladder stuff that you get on the ladder for the belt from SummerSlam or Summit Bash from WCW. And I get it. If you bleed, you make more money. If you break a bone, you make more money. But to be honest with you, I think that's, again, it's a childish of people promoting something like that because they're telling people that you could make money by scamming people or pretending to be something that you're not. To me, it's bad ethics and morals. And I get it. People are going to say, well, you're just a hater. You don't like the WWE. You don't like the WCW. You don't like UFC. But I like things to be as real as possible, real competition. That's something about even the NBA is going through. A lot of people are now even watching the NBA. Embiid isn't playing a couple nights in a row, a couple days. I've seen that on ESPN. I've seen that on Fox Sports. I've seen that on other podcasts. Embiid from the 76ers. His team's not doing so well, and he's got a bad attitude. He gets MVP, and now he's not playing. So I think that's another reason why people, how much longer can sports last with players and athletes not really participating every single game and in trying to win the game? Sports in itself has changed from the 80s and from now, and it's just so different. And yeah, there's protocols that we have to comply to, and that's just something that we have to realize that there's a reason why we can't hit someone in the head. There's a reason why we have to protect players on the field who can get blindsided from a hit. It doesn't matter if it's a UFC fight or it doesn't matter if it's from a football play. It's just we need to protect players and so that they can grow old and be a senior citizen. But going off my rant, I think I'm going to talk about Detroit Pistons right now. As you tell, if you're a Detroit Piston fan, I have the game on right now of the Detroit Pistons and Toronto Raptors. And congratulations to Vince Carter earlier this year, the first Toronto Raptor to have his number retired. Probably one of the most phenomenal dunkers of all time. Probably had the athleticism of Michael Jordan without a great shot, outside shot, mid shot. Wasn't really great at that. He was more of a driver, dunker, highlight film. He kind of reminds me more of Dominique Wilkins than Michael Jordan. I know that they both came from North Carolina, MJ and Vince Carter, but I mean, his dunks, Vince Carter's dunks were amazing. I mean, so congratulations to him. He played for like 22 years. He still played when he was 42 years old, and that's pretty cool. So congratulations to that. Isaiah Thomas was one of the first head coaches or GMs for Toronto Raptors. Well, he was a Toronto Raptors GM and head coach. So Detroit has some connection to that team itself. So congratulations to that. But as most of you guys know, Kay Cunningham is out. He landed on his back or his spine or his tailbone a couple nights ago. But not having 23 points on the board, you can tell it really hurt Detroit. But you thought that Jaden Ivey would have had more points. You thought that Tobias Harris would have had more points. I know that Barkley, I gotta remember his name. Let's see here. Beasley. I don't know why I call him Barkley. So Malik Beasley, he's been pretty phenomenal. 15.6 points off the bench. He might be starting today, but he's on fire. I almost feel like they should almost start him over Ivy. But you can't do that because Ivy is a number 1 draft pick from Purdue. I sometimes think that Ivy's shooting a little bit better with the 3-point shot. I think his release point is a little higher. Sometimes it stays, to me, it's almost too low for his release shot. He may need to not have the ball in his hand. I think he needs to go through, just watching him from highlights from Purdue and highlights from Detroit, I think he needs a double pick around the basket so he can hit 3-point shots, have a pick or two so he can hit his 15, 17 footers. I do think that when he does struggle the most is when he has the ball in his hand for a very long period of time, or when the shot clock is running down and other players on the team pass him the ball somewhere atop the key or somewhere on the side of the wing, left wing or the right wing of the court, and he tries to drive it in and he doesn't have a good angle to make a shot. I do think that he should really concentrate on making that 15, 17 footer a very, very possible over 55% of a percentage of making that shot. I really do think that he needs to do that. I think he needs to slow the game down a little bit at times. I do think that even Sasser seems to be more control. But Sasser, Malik Beasley, and Jaden Ivey, they turn the ball over a lot, especially with the isolation. I think that Detroit needs to keep. I think in some ways, maybe if you're not going to have a set of plays for any NBA team, I think you have to do something with collegiate level basketball where you keep passing the ball around the circle and from one side of the court to another side of the court, bringing it into Jalen Duran or Isaiah Stewart, push it back out, throw the ball back to the other side of the court, and keep doing that until someone gets open, make a couple of picks, get Ivy to move to his basket, even Malik Beasley to the basket. But I do think that Tobias probably needs to shoot the ball more. He has a better sweet shot. I like Tobias' shot. It's his arch is in the right spot. It comes off his hand really smooth. The ball is spinning backwards. I mean, I like Tobias. I think Tobias needs to touch the ball more from the 14, 15 footer, even if they do a pick or two, even if he makes a pick for Ivy or Sasser or Cade Cunningham, and if that means throwing the ball back to Tobias, that could work for them as well. I do think that a lot of the NBA teams have struggling with setting up the plays, but there you have it. As of right now, Detroit's up 16-7 in the first quarter against Toronto. So Toronto's not so good as of right now. So we'll go to How about we go to the NFL? The Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions won 24-6 over Indianapolis Colts. Uh, the Colts, Anthony Richardson, you know, he's coming back. He made a couple starts now over Joe Flacco. Uh, and I think it's a God blessing for Anthony Richardson to have Joe Flacco teach him how to do your studies, teach him how to study film, teach him how to communicate with the receivers, offensive line, defensive line. Well, not defensive line, but offensive line. Maybe running backs. Maybe learn. And then Joe Flacco is probably teaching him. I mean, give little bits of how to call better audibles, recognize the defense. I know that usually rookie quarterbacks have a really difficult time reading what a nickel and dime and coverage defense is, because teams can make a difference in the world, make things change from one play to another. You don't always see what you want to see. But Anthony Richardson had a couple good runs. He had 10 carries, 61 yards. His longest run was 17 yards. Jonathan Taylor, I think, I don't think he's got it no more. I don't think he's the premier running back that we all thought he was back in the day. So, time to change things up a little bit, right? For Detroit, a lot of Detroit fans and I wouldn't say Detroit fans. I would say a lot of the NFL social media guys say that Detroit had not such a great game, not a lot of high-scoring game, but you sometimes play to the other opponent's level. I think that they didn't have to go to mock G4 mode against the Colts. I think that's why the score was a little bit closer than it was. I think that I know that David Montgomery he did something to his hamstring towards the end of the first half. He did not play in the second half. He kind of ruined my parlay. I had 40 yards for David Montgomery, 50 yards or 40 yards for Gibbs. I had Gibbs scoring a touchdown. I had St. Brown for like over 60 yards. I had all my parlay, but David Montgomery. But I'll take the win. So Jared Goff, 26 for 36, 269, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, sacked 3 times. Detroit's defense, I think they're just doing real good. I don't think that, I think that people thought that Darius Smith was going to do a lot more pressure, more to get to the quarterback. But, I mean, the whole team's kind of putting things together without Hutchinson's speed in there. But I like what Detroit's doing. I like the fact that we didn't I'm kind of happy that they didn't even put Montgomery back in there just for the sake of his rushing rate, or his rushing yards, or average yards for rushing. I mean, I'm just happy that they didn't push him to do something that he shouldn't have to do, shouldn't have done to do it. Shouldn't do anyways, because Detroit was ahead. I think if the game was closer, I think Montgomery would have played. I really do. I would think that if the game was a possession, a field goal, ahead or behind, I think Montgomery would have played, gained a couple more yards, and it would have been. I mean, you just have to play to your situation, and that's what Detroit did really well. So let's applaud that for Detroit. Daniel Jones was released about 4 or 5 days ago. I know I didn't bring it up because I already did my podcast for the week. Daniel Jones was released from the Giants. Uh, you know, you got to feel bad for this guy. I feel bad for this guy. And I tell you why. Because as an athlete, when you fail and you feel bad. And a lot of people say, well, he got paid a lot of money to be a real bad quarterback. But you know what? They paid him to play. And now they're paying him to leave. And I think that that's still. So sometimes money doesn't fix things like that, because now you're out of a job, you don't know what to do with yourself. He's trying to look for a team for a playoff contender, which I think it's a bit out there to actually look for. I would almost consider not going back to the NFL if I was Sam. I think I would probably retire. I tell you, if I can find this, I know that by releasing Daniels, the Giants opened up a $19.1 million salary cap for him to leave. But I do know that they're spending $22.5 million this year and $24.5 million next year on Daniel's contract. But I mean, take your losses. I think that the Giants really messed up by not signing Barkley that went to the Philadelphia Eagles. He had a huge game last night. He just had an awesome night. He had over 255 yards. Some people are saying that he should be the MVP. I still think Jared Goff should be the MVP just because it's Jared Goff. But the Rams were supposed to kind of slow down the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles sometimes do have a little problem scoring touchdowns in the red zone. So that's something to think about. But I do think that I think the problem with the Eagles sometimes, and I know that the score is 37-20, so it wasn't a close game, but I think sometimes the Eagles need to throw the ball in the end zone, even if it's first and goal and you're on the 5-yard line or you're on the 7-yard line or your 10-yard line. I think teams need to throw the football in the end zone to actually open up the play call better, especially for Barkley. I think that would help Detroit Lions as well. I think it'd be okay to throw the ball not just to Laporta for Detroit, but to Williamson or to St. Brown or to Brock Wright or anybody that's not just going to run it in like Barkley or Montgomery. You got to open things up. Same thing for Saquon Barkley. What did I say? Detroit. I meant Detroit. Gibbs and Montgomery for the Eagles. I meant Barkley. But I do think that a lot of teams are, they're just trying to run it, and they don't throw the ball. And I think that's killing the running game in the red zone as well. Because when you know that the other opponent is not going to throw the ball in the end zone, why would you cover? Why would you have an extra guy in the backfield? I'm just wondering what's going on. What else could I talk about? Well, we could talk about Michigan and Ohio State. Ohio State's got a 21-point spread. I do think that Michigan's in trouble. This might be the year that Ohio State will win. But Davis Warren is going to be the starting quarterback for Detroit. He struggles a lot. He's not really mobile. With Michigan, I keep saying, going back and forth. When Michigan starts Warren, He's not mobile. And when you put Orgy in there, you know you're gonna run the football. Even if Mulligans is in it, Mullins is in the game, and Orgy is in the game. You know it's gonna be a run play. That's a huge problem for Michigan. I do think that Ohio State's got a better quarterback out of Will Howard. He's got over 2,685 yards, 26 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I think the advantage that Michigan will have is the fact that Ryan Day sometimes messes things up when he's doing play calls or timeouts or situations of the games that he'll tell the players from Ohio State to do something when it doesn't need to be done. I think they'll probably try to go for it when they don't need it. I think if Michigan is able to keep the game close in the first half, I think they have a chance. I think they need to go find somebody other than Loveland to catch the football. That's for sure. Your tight end, wide receiver, he's more of a tight end type of guy, but he's a bit too small to play tight end. I think you're going to need other guys on Michigan to actually win the game. And Mullins doesn't just have to have, let's say, at least 70 yards of rushing, but I do think that Michigan's going to have other receivers out there to participate in the beat Ohio State. I think that I'm going through these names right now. I think Bell's got to do something. I think that Charleston, CJ Charleston got to do something. I think Michigan is they're just going to have to do something while they're wide receivers other than throw the ball to Loveland. I don't know how they're not going to survive if they don't run the football well and if Loveland's the only one catching the football. That's a devastation for Michigan. Do I think that Michigan should fire more? I don't think so. I think they'll give him one more year. I don't know how much further that Moore has, if he has a sub 500 year. And if he loses to Ohio State this year, that could be it for him. So, that could be it for him. I do think that Michigan will probably hire, if they do hire a Michigan coach, it'd be someone that came from Michigan or has played at Michigan. I just think that may happen. I just feel it could happen. But I'm going to end the podcast here. I'd like to thank everyone that listened to it. I hope everyone has a good night. I hope I can have you come back. This episode is also on YouTube. It's on the CRAZYDRE Podcast Show as the podcast. On YouTube, it's got a Detroit Tiger logo on it instead of the CRAZYDRE Podcast Show. So please download, tell your friends about it. Let me know what I did wrong, what I did right. Tell me my stats, whatever I need to do better. Peace, love, and I'm gone. As soon as I find a stop sign, right?